Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the lunch break. Today's episode is all about moving to Berlin. This one's for you, Catherine. All right, everybody. So I thought I'd start this out actually from a suggestion my buddy Luke gave me after watching the last one I made. He made a comment about how the previous ones were more or less about me telling a story about whatever pertains to the topic, and then later letting that lead into some life lesson or whatnot. So I thought I'd take that approach today with a short little segment about how I got to Berlin. I thought that might be, I don't know if I've actually told that story yet. If I have, sorry, I'm going to tell it again. But then I'll go into some of like the things I put together a group of different topics that you might want to tackle before getting here, at least keep in mind before getting here. If you are to move to Berlin specifically or Germany specifically, these could be very helpful, and then probably they can also be transferred to other countries as well. Give you a little bit of a good idea of what it's like to, as an American in particular, to move to a country in Europe. So to get started, allow me to tell you how I got to Berlin. I am originally from Pennsylvania, Lancaster, Pennsylvania, good old Amish country. Then for studies, for university, for college, I moved to Baltimore, which I lived for about 6 or 7 years, 4 years of that being with college, and then the later 2 or 3, I was living there and working in the music industry. I was doing like venue work, stage management and stuff. This is cool, the type of people I got to meet. I met Jesse McCartney. I met Ross Lynch, Super Duper Kyle. I think Miley Cyrus's little sister came through once. I didn't get to speak to her. I just saw her interact with our people. But it was a neat experience. And as I moved my way up through, the higher and higher I got in the music industry, the worse the people kind of got. The higher ups of the music industry tended to be a little bit less personable and way more money grubbing. This is all business type of thing. And if I was to stay with it down below, I would have been great, stay at the venues. I might have still been there to this day, but because I moved myself up the chain, I got to meet the people that maybe I didn't want to meet. But either way, in that realization that I was like, this isn't where I want to be, I started branching out to other different things, trying to get back into the video type of thing. I've been making YouTube videos since I was a kid, so any way, shape, or form I could do that was kind of the goal in mind. So on LinkedIn one day, a nice German man by the name of Michael sent me a message because I was in some forum. I was in a forum for video editing, and he asked me some questions about my video editing process as like a YouTuber or a content creator or whatever. And he was representing this company called Type Studio. Type Studio was an online video editing company, and they would do their product was text to edit. So like you could edit a video by editing text. It would transcribe it and you just like edit it like a Word document. It was neat. It was the first time I ever saw something like that. So I responded and I was like, hey, this is my thing, blah, blah, blah. This is my process. And then a couple weeks go by and I think back on it. I'm like, you know what? Why don't I just send them a message? Maybe they need help with like marketing and stuff. They seem to be kind of a small startup, just doing their thing, asking questions and whatnot. Let me reach out. So I did. And lo and behold, I was kind of exactly what they were looking for at the time. They were trying to compete with this other company called Veed, and it was kind of in the same space. It was very much a similar product, but they were all both building up together, and they had their own guy named Alec. And Alec was doing YouTube videos for them on a regular basis, getting into the YouTube algorithm and Google Analytics and keywords, so that whenever anybody would search how to do X, Y, or Z, like with video, they would pop up. So Type was trying to do the same thing, and me offering my services was like a perfect timing type of thing. So for the next year or two, I started working for them for free. I think it was 1 year I was working for them for free. I was just on top of my day job. It was very convenient that COVID was happening at the time, because I worked from home. So as long as I get all the stuff that I needed to get done for like actual work, I took all the extra time I had into making promo videos and YouTube videos for this company out of the comfort of my own bedroom in Baltimore. So I was doing that for a while, and that relationship grew, and we all, like, I was in their weekly meetings and was participating in like the whole content strategy and whatnot, and trying my best to be as involved as possible from hundreds of miles away. So that relationship kind of grew, and it turned into me learning and meeting other people that they're associated with over here in Germany. And the long-term goal turned into me working for them full time, like this being a thing that the startup kind of flourishes and gains a lot of money and builds out the product, and we all continue to work together. And in that process, I needed to get away from my music business life career. So the goal was to get jobs and such in video or stuff that can kind of supplement that pay that I was making with the music industry. And after a while of working, of finding and curating a bunch of different things, including ones that were over here, including jobs that were over here that I got through these type studio guys, I was able to quit that and move into video full time, and doing it freelance. I was working for a bunch of different people and a bunch of different companies. I was working for a music school that was also there in Baltimore. I would shoot their music videos. Like, they had a big recording studio, and when people would pay for music videos and such, they would record, and I'd record them recording, put it all together, a nice little pretty simple music video, and that was part of that. And then also working for the Type Guys, and then a company called WeFrame, which is run by a friend of ours, Yosha. Very, very talented dude, extremely talented man, with a camera, and his advertisement skills and production skills, they're unmatched. It's ridiculous. This kid is nuts. So go check him out. I'll link him in the description. But he was part of the German group that also kind of gave me that kick of income that I needed to have the confidence of like being on my own and figuring things out. So for a while I was doing that, working from Baltimore, and there was one day that okay, let me take it back a step. I was looking to get an office to do my work out of. It was like, I thought to myself, probably going to be another year of what I was thinking of, like staying in Baltimore just for another year for comfort, sign a new lease and whatnot. I might as well just like chill out for a little while. And I thought, the best thing I could do is kind of create this little studio that I have, like a little office space that I can go to down the street from me. There was one that I found that was literally within walking distance. It would have been a beautiful, every morning, 8 a.m., I'd walk down to my office and put my videos together and have everything in place and ready to go. So it was an ideal situation. But something didn't sit right. So the day I was supposed to sign the lease, I had this weird feeling that like maybe this isn't what I should be doing, or I just was confused. I wasn't totally sure if the office thing was the thing that I wanted. So I ended up booking a session with my therapist for that day, and I went over to his office and I sat down with him for an hour, and we talked the whole thing through. And by the end of it, I walked out, and I remember walking out to my car and getting on my phone, and I called my dad, and he answers. He says, "Hello?" And I go, "Hey, I need your help with something." And he goes, "What?" And I go, "I'm moving to Germany." And just like that, he was very supportive. He was like, "Okay, I guess, all right." So from that point on, it was the gears switched. It was like just an immediate decision from that, like one moment to the other. Something didn't seem right. And I think the final decision came from this idea of like, why am I waiting? The idea of me going there was inevitable anyways. So I might as well just take the leap. And that's kind of where all of this next section of my life kind of started. Also, all of the the troubles, trials, and tribulations that come with it with moving to a whole new country. But even still, it like from that point on, I moved in a month. I sold my car. I sold a lot of my things. I got rid of my apartment to some degree. It was a lot within a month. So with that, my journey kind of on like just like with the snap of a finger, just switched, changed. I moved. I was out. I was going to another country. And I've never been here before. I've never been to Berlin. I was in Frankfurt once with my family because my grandmother's from Frankfurt. So a couple summers prior to that, we went over here for a week or two just to experience what the German life is like, and see where my grandmother grew up and whatnot. But other than that, I don't think I've ever even been on a plane by myself prior to that. So it was a very interesting step. It was a very interesting situation, and it was very exciting. I remember on the day I was leaving, I remember like everything was like, it didn't seem real until it was time for me to go to my gate and go through security. And as I was walking through there, everything it was like one chapter closed and another chapter opened. And it was such an interesting feeling. I don't know. Maybe I'm dramatizing it quite a bit, but it was a big step for me. I remember a friend of mine prior to me leaving the United States, I had a friend that was working with here, another one of those companies that I found some work through, and I called her because I was like, "Hey, I have some questions about what it's like moving to a new country," because she did the whole thing. And I'm sitting on this call with her, and I'm like freaking out. I'm like crying. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what to do. I'm freaking out. This is a whole weird process. And she's looking at me like, what are you doing? Why are you being like this? She didn't realize that I was like 4 years old at the time, and I've never done any of this. And she's like, so I was very much dramatizing the whole thing, and I still kind of have this dramatic whole thing behind it, but it was still fun. Like, I don't know. It was it is probably the best decision I've ever made. So I had the full plane trip. I recorded a lot of it. I made a little video out of it for like the type guys and whatnot, and doing the whole thing. And when I got here, I got to Berlin airport, and I walked out and I looked for the really tall man, Jan, one of the type guys. Saw him, and we all hugged, and that was it. I was here, and everything just started from there, and everything kept going. And while that job didn't really last as long as we all hoped it would, the guys are all doing great, by the way, but the things changed, and my career path changed. I started working for a bunch of different things, still doing the video thing. I still am keeping that video creation alive, and video YouTube dream alive to some degree, and content creation dream alive. And it's kind of all because I made the step to be outside of my bubble and really explore what the world offered to me in different people and different creative endeavors, and exploring myself. I don't know. I hate that. That was bad. Anyways, so yeah, then I was here, and I continued on. I met my girlfriend. I now work for CreatorPad. Everything kind of went really, really well for me. Now, not to say it wasn't easy, or not to say it wasn't hard. It was not easy. It was a rough one, which is where, Catherine, I'm going to give you some, and everybody else that's watching this, I'm going to give you some tips and tricks of the trade of what it's like if you'd like to move over here, just to kind of couple it in with everything. The number one thing, we're just going to jump into this, okay? The number one thing that you need to worry about when coming and trying to live here is a visa, getting yourself the ability to stay. Legally able to stay. In order to do so, you need a handful of things. You need an apartment with an Anmeldung, which is like a legal paper that says where you reside, a residence paper. You need health insurance, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, because a lot of times you can't get a visa without insurance, but sometimes you can't get insurance without a visa. So finding these companies that will offer that was a bit of a pain. I was trying to figure that out with the public stuff. There's public and private insurance that you can go with here. So I went with a private one that's also specifically for expats. It's called Feather. Feather was very helpful for me and very convenient. I think I still use them. So they were very good, and that got me the insurance like legitimacy that I needed for my visa process. But with the visa, if you plan on being here and staying here and trying to work here, the moment you get here, if not prior to being here, you need to book an appointment at the I think it's Arbeitsamt. I think that's what it's called. I'll put it in the description, but it's you to acquire your freelance or work or blue card or any type of visa that you want. You need to book now if you're coming to Berlin. You will not get an appointment for maybe 3 or 4 months, and even so, it's a struggle to do so. I had that issue because I came over here, and what you initially get is called a Schengen visa, which is your travel visa. Once you arrive here, essentially you have 3 months that you can just roam and maybe not legally, but you have 3-month gap period before they start saying, hey, what are you doing here? So with that whole process, just make sure that you book your appointment as soon as possible. So you really have to be diligent about making sure that everything is like put in place prior to moving here, or immediately when you get here. Do not like take any time to do so, because that was a really, really rough. It was very stressful. Let's put it that way. Very, very stressful. Make sure you get a bank. Banks are always nice to have over here. I have N26. N26 is very nice and very convenient, and you can just bounce money back and forth between each other. It's kind of like Venmo. If Venmo was a bank. So I don't know if Venmo is a bank these days, but either way, it's like it's a cool system. There's a bunch of other ones that you can probably look into. The big ones are Sparkasse or Deutsche Bank. I think there's a bunch of them, but I use N26, so that's what I would suggest because it worked for me and it's nice and easy. And they're also another startup that you can support. Driver's license. If you want to get your driver's license, you have. You need to you can check and see if your state transfers over to a German license. Mine did, thankfully. Pennsylvania license was allowed me to direct transfer, which was good. And then, so look into that if you want to get your driver's license over here. It's all about just booking an appointment and, again, doing that whole thing through their their legal appointment booking situation, and just making sure that you get that and you go to those and you supply all the right paperwork and such. There's so much paperwork that pertains to every single thing, and it's all paperwork too. It's not done online. It's paperwork. You have to print things out. So if you're going here, going back to the visa thing, you need a handful of things that would help you. I'll put them down in the description as well. It's like a list of different requirements. It's like a picture. You need the Anmeldung. You need letters of intent to work. So a bunch of German companies that say, if you're a freelancer, I needed a bunch of German companies, GmbHs, that which is LLC essentially, that were willing to offer me work once I get my visa. So a lot of different little regulations. I think I even had to do a money projection for the next 3 years just so they know I'm not going to be a lazy piece of shit. So it was a lot of things. So that's kind of more of the government type of thing. So get your appointments, get yourself some insurance. If you want a driver's license, do that. The public transport's perfect if you're coming to Berlin. I drive only when we go down south to my girlfriend's parents. That's the extent of our driving, or to get groceries, because it's easier to throw things in the trunk than it is to carry it on the tram. But public transport is what I use to get to work, or a bike. Buy a bike. They're fun in the summer. Winter, not so much because it's rainy and cold, but it's good. So that's where I would sit for the legalities of things if you're trying to move to Berlin. But when it comes to culture things or cultural differences, there's a handful of things that I would like to touch base on. If you're trying to come here and learn German, good luck. Berlin, especially as an American, if you have not learned another language before, Berlin is the place of language learning excuses, especially for the Americans. I've been here 2 years and my German is still at a sub basic level. I can follow along with conversations for the most part. If I know what's going on, and if my girlfriend has already told me the story before and she's telling someone else, I know I can follow it. But if you're looking to learn German while you're here, if that's your only reason, intensive courses. Do that. I'm going to take one in February, so that's my next step into that whole thing. So if you want to jump into that, you're not going to just learn it by being around. Everybody speaks English, and everybody switches to English if they hear you barely getting away with German. Like, they try and you try, and it just doesn't work out. So English is just easier for everyone. Also, Germans really like showing their German and being courteous with their German. So with their English, sorry, very courteous with that. So they might switch to they're going to switch for you. But so there's that. Work culture is a bit different. They care about your work-life balance. Your nonstop go mentality of the U.S. is it might be challenged here. It's just like the idea of, hey, you're sick, go home. It's okay. You're allowed to be sick. You're allowed to take a couple days. Go on vacation. I think they have like 40 or 50 days of vacation that's available to them per year. That, like, they want you to take breaks. They don't want you being a zombie worker. So go do that. That's a fun thing. That's actually a very positive thing. Recycling and environment. Know your different trash bins. You got your paper, you got your regular trash, and you got your recycling. And then you also have your glasses. There's 2 different types of glasses. And you need to know all of them if you want to be a true German, or at least assimilate and not get yelled at by your landlord. So then finally, those are the important ones. Let's be honest. Housing. Okay, that kind of I probably should have coupled that into the legalities of, like, when we were talking about the visa and getting at the Anmeldung. Finding housing here. Good luck. Everyone has a problem with it, whether you're German or not. Everybody has a problem with it. Everybody wants to be here. Prices are skyrocketing. It is fucking miracle that we found this place that we have. I am very thankful for my roommate for finding this place and kind of swooping me under the wing and allowing me to experience living in the heart of, like, one of the most beautiful sections of Berlin, Prenzlauer Berg. It's just, it's perfect. And we kind of scooted in, but ours is like a very, not a very common case. So I would suggest, doing figuring that one out. Sorry, I just looked at the time and I have a meeting in 5 minutes. This is great. So housing, I'll put it down. There's going to be I don't remember what the name is, something versucht. I'll put it in the description as well for housing if you're looking to try to find something. Yeah, it's good luck. That's all I say. There's a lot of different. There's also another building that a friend of mine just started at. It's kind of like a dorm, like it's just like dorm rooms that you can apply for and get into, and they're not very expensive, which is nice. So I'll also put that down there. Public transportation, we already did. Healthcare system, get yourself some insurance and get your butt in the dude. Last night somebody had to have the ambulance called for like an emergency, and in my mind I was like, oh right, that's totally fine. They're going to come here and just look at you and be like, cool, all right, on your way, and not give you a bill, which is fucking fantastic. So that's a nice little thing. But anyways, as I wrap this up, because I got to be in a meeting in 4 minutes, that's kind of the gist of moving to Berlin, at least the story of it from my angle, and then also things to consider when doing it yourself. I highly recommend checking out the links that I put in the description. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments below. I would be very happy to answer anything that I can. Again, I would rather people not do it the way that I did it because I really rumbled and bumbled and stumbled. Also, just like a side final note, find a tax person. Taxes. They're always, that's the one. That's always the one. Oh, and pay your radio tax. Everybody has to pay a TV and radio tax. Whether you have a TV or a radio in your home, you have to pay a TV and radio tax. It's like $50 for 3 months. It's ridiculous. And if you don't pay it and your roommate pays it, you have to tell them about it and send them a physical piece of mail that says, hey, somebody else in this household is paying for it. It's a lot of paperwork, and you'll figure that out. They're very heavily, nothing's digital here. Everything is written and stored away in files. It's just fucking crazy. But yeah, 2 minutes left. Thank you so much for watching this episode of The Lunch Break. I hope you enjoyed and I hope you learned something. And I will see you next time. Okay. Goodbye. Peace. Auf Wiedersehen.